Detective Sarah Mitchell's routine patrol takes a sharp turn when she pulls over Kiera Johnson, a young black woman who's both nervous and embarrassed. Sarah's harsh treatment leaves Kiera humiliated but determined. As Kiera steps into her new role as chief of police, she battles the shadow of that painful encounter while preparing to assert her authority. Meanwhile, Sarah grapples with her disdain for Kiera's promotion, determined to maintain her influence. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Detective Sarah Mitchell adjusted her sunglasses with a practiced flick of her wrist as she cruised down Maple Street, her patrol car gliding smoothly over the asphalt. The warm afternoon sun cast a golden hue over the city, its rays reflecting off the polished surface of her badge, which gleamed prominently against her dark uniform. The badge was more than just a piece of metal. It was a testament to her years of hard work, her dedication, and her unyielding commitment to enforcing the law. It was a symbol of authority and respect she had earned through her tireless efforts on the force. Yet, as she navigated the quiet streets, she couldn't shake the feeling that the city's eyes were on her, scrutinizing her every move. It was a serene day, the kind that made the hustle and bustle of her usual work seem like a distant memory. The tranquility was almost palpable, and Sarah savored the calmness, knowing it was a rare opportunity to catch someone who might let their guard down. Her keen eyes remained alert, scanning the road ahead for any sign of trouble or violation. As she rounded a corner with the precision of a seasoned officer, her gaze fell upon a car that seemed to wobble slightly over the white line, a small infraction that might have elicited a chuckle on another day. But today, the slight deviation from the norm ignited a familiar spark of authority within her. It was as though the minor breach of traffic rules was a challenge, a chance to reassert her dominance and control. With a quick, practiced movement, she activated the flashing lights on her cruiser, their vivid red and blue hues cutting through the calm of the afternoon. The siren blared, announcing her presence as she maneuvered to pull the vehicle over. The car came to a stop, and the driver, Kiera Johnson, a young black woman, stepped out. Her face displayed a mixture of confusion and apprehension as she approached Sarah. "Is there a problem, officer?" she asked, trying to maintain her composure despite the obvious unease in her voice. Sarah's response was curt and authoritative. "Yeah, you were swerving back there." "License and registration," she demanded, leaning against her patrol car with her arms crossed firmly over her chest. The posture was deliberate, a manifestation of the superiority she felt as she scrutinized Kiera's vehicle, a modest sedan that seemed to offer little in the way of luxury or distinction. Kiera's hands trembled slightly as she fumbled through her purse, her face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and nervousness. "I'm sorry, I was just trying to adjust the radio. I didn't mean to." Sarah cut her off abruptly, her tone laced with condescension. "You're not the first person to use that excuse. Do you think you're special just because you're driving a halfway decent car?" The implication stung, and Kiera's cheeks burned with humiliation. She tried to protest, her voice wavering. "No, I just..." Sarah's voice rose in volume and intensity, her patience wearing thin. "Just what? You're breaking the law, and I'm issuing you a ticket. You need to learn to pay attention." Her words carried a sharp edge, drawing the attention of passers-by who began to gather, their eyes fixed on the unfolding scene. The growing crowd seemed to amplify the tension, making the situation feel even more charged as Sarah continued her authoritative reprimand. "Please, I understand," Kiera said, her voice quivering slightly but laced with determination. She had only recently started her career as a police officer, and this was not at all how she had envisioned her day unfolding. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily on her shoulders, and the realization that this encounter would be a stain on her otherwise hopeful start was deeply unsettling. "Too late for that," Sarah replied curtly, her pen scratching furiously on her ticket book. "You should be thankful I'm not placing you under arrest for reckless driving. Kira stood there, feeling the crushing weight of her embarrassment and the intense scrutiny of the bystanders around her. She could feel their eyes boring into her, and their murmurs of judgment began to swirl around her, heightening her sense of disgrace. Her attempts to hold her composure felt like a losing battle. "I'm an officer too," Kira said, her voice barely above a whisper, trying to assert some measure of authority and perhaps gain a sliver of understanding. Sarah looked up from her ticket book with an unimpressed glare. "I know the rules," she said dismissively. "Do you think that matters? Today you're just another driver." With a finality that stung, she thrust the ticket into Kira's trembling hands and added, "Maybe next time, try not to embarrass yourself so thoroughly in front of your fellow officers." Kira, clutching the ticket like a tangible symbol of her humiliation, walked back to her car with a heavy heart. The weight of the ticket seemed to burn a hole through her pocket, and the sting of Sarah's words made it even harder to swallow. She fought to hold back the tears that threatened to spill, determined not to let this single, demeaning moment define her. She slid into the driver's seat of her sedan, gripping the steering wheel as if it were her lifeline. "I will not let this be the end of my story," she whispered to herself, her voice steady despite the quiver in her heart. She took a deep breath, trying to steel herself against the tide of negative emotions threatening to overwhelm her. Later that evening, Kira sat alone in her modest apartment, the walls adorned with photographs capturing her journey through the police academy, each one a testament to her hard work, dedication, and dreams of making a difference. The city lights twinkled faintly through the window, a stark contrast to the internal darkness she felt. She poured herself a cup of tea, letting the warmth seep into her hands as she gazed out at the distant lights, seeking solace in their steady glow. "I can't let this define me," Kira muttered to herself, her resolve crystallizing into something unyielding. She reached for a framed photograph of herself in her graduation uniform, her face alight with pride and optimism. The image of her past self reminded her of the journey she had endured and the aspirations she still held dear. "I've worked too hard for this," she said softly, as she began to jot down her thoughts in her journal, an introspective habit she had developed during her training. Her pen danced across the pages, capturing her reflections and reaffirming her commitment to her goals. "I will rise above this," she wrote with renewed determination. "This is just one moment, and I refuse to let it derail my future." As she penned her aspirations for leadership and equality, a powerful surge of determination coursed through her. Kira knew that the city needed a leader who truly understood its people, and she was resolute in proving that she was more than the traffic stop that had humiliated her. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. With a sense of purpose and a heart full of anticipation for the challenges and opportunities ahead, Kira closed her journal. She knew that to become the officer she aspired to be, one who would bring meaningful change to both her department and the community, she had to confront this setback head-on. With her resolve firmly in place, she felt a renewed vigor for the path she had chosen, ready to climb the ranks and fulfill the promise of her dreams. Kira Johnson sat quietly in her modestly decorated office, a space that reflected both her professional achievements and personal life. The walls were adorned with an array of framed commendations, awards, and cherished family photographs that captured moments of joy and pride. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting a warm, golden glow across the room and illuminating the gentle features of Kira's face. Despite the serene setting, her heart pounded with a turbulent mix of excitement and anxiety. Just moments earlier, Kira had received the news that she had been appointed as the new chief of police. The weight of the title felt almost tangible, pressing heavily on her shoulders. This achievement was not just a new position, but the culmination of years of relentless dedication, late nights, and countless personal sacrifices. The thrill of her accomplishment was undeniable, yet it was accompanied by a shadowy reminder of her past encounter with Detective Sarah Mitchell. Kira took a deep breath, trying to steady herself amidst the whirlwind of emotions. "Kira, you've earned this," she whispered to herself, her voice a beacon of self-assurance amidst the storm of her thoughts. "You've faced challenges before, and you can handle whatever comes next." However, the memory of Sarah's smirk from their last confrontation lingered in her mind like an unwelcome echo. The humiliation she had experienced that day felt as fresh as if it had happened just yesterday. Now, as she prepared to step into her new role, she knew she would have to confront that uncomfortable past directly. As she immersed herself in contemplation, her phone buzzed, interrupting her reverie and pulling her back to the present. It was a message from Captain Reynolds, her esteemed mentor and a guiding force throughout her career. The text read, "Congrats on the promotion. Let's meet up to discuss your plans for the department." A genuine smile spread across Kira's face as she read the congratulatory message. The supportive words provided a much-needed boost of confidence, reinforcing her belief in her capabilities. "Thanks, Captain. I'll be ready with ideas." She responded, her fingers moving swiftly over the screen, her tone now imbued with renewed confidence. Meanwhile, across town at the precinct, Detective Sarah Mitchell sat back in her chair, her gaze fixed on the bulletin board that prominently announced the new chief of police. A surge of disdain and irritation washed over her as she scanned the announcement. "Another politically correct appointment," she muttered under her breath, her voice laced with derision as she rolled her eyes. What could she possibly know about real policing? Her colleagues, Detective Ryan and Officer Bennett, exchanged uneasy glances, sensing the growing tension in Sarah's tone. "Sarah, you should give her a chance," Detective Ryan suggested cautiously, attempting to diffuse the mounting negativity. "I've heard she's tough but fair." Sarah's lips curled into a scornful smile. "Tough," she scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You mean she's just another player in this diversity game? We'll see how long that facade lasts." Officer Bennett shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his unease palpable. "Just be careful how you approach this. She's not a rookie, she has real experience." "Oh, I'm sure she does," Sarah snapped back, her frustration simmering just below the surface. "But that doesn't change the fact that she's still a rookie at heart. I've been with this department longer than she's been in the field." The conversation fell into a heavy silence as Sarah's thoughts churned with reflections on the shifting power dynamics. Determined to assert her dominance and maintain her influence, she resolved to demonstrate that she was still the one in control, regardless of the new title that now hung above Kira Johnson's name. Back in her office, Kira sat at her desk, her mind racing with anticipation and apprehension. The room, though new and unfamiliar, felt charged with the promise of change. She retrieved a fresh notebook from her desk drawer, its pages crisp and empty, ready to be filled with the thoughts that would shape her first day. With a deep breath, she began to jot down key points for her inaugural address to the department. She knew that her introduction was not just about setting the tone, but also about asserting her authority while signaling her commitment to collaboration and respect. "I need to address the elephant in the room," she muttered to herself, her pen moving with purposeful strokes across the page. "Sarah's not going to make this easy for me. I have to stand my ground and assert my position firmly." Her eyes narrowed in determination as she considered the challenges ahead. Kira stood in front of the mirror, rehearsing her speech with growing confidence. Her reflection seemed to embody both the woman she once was and the leader she was evolving into. "Good morning, team," she practiced, her voice gaining strength and conviction with each repetition. "I want to emphasize that respect is the cornerstone of our department." She paused, visualizing the faces of her new team. "I believe in accountability, not just within our community, but within ourselves." As she continued, her words became a mantra of resolve and empowerment. Kira felt a surge of determination with each phrase, fueling her readiness to confront Sarah and any obstacles that lay ahead. "This is my moment," she affirmed, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "I won't let my past define my future." The morning of her first day arrived with a crispness that matched the clarity of her purpose. Kira stepped into the precinct, her footsteps deliberate and resonant with a sense of mission. The atmosphere shifted palpably as officers turned to look at her, their expressions a blend of curiosity and skepticism. She met their gazes with a steady composure, her resolve solidifying with each stride toward her new office. She caught sight of Sarah Mitchell in the hallway, standing with a posture that spoke of her displeasure and doubt. Sarah's lips were pressed into a thin line, and her eyes narrowed with a mix of disbelief and challenge. Kira's heart raced, but she maintained her composure as she approached her former adversary. "Good morning, Detective Mitchell," she said, her voice unwavering and controlled. "Morning," Chief Sarah replied, her tone laced with a subtle hint of mockery. "I hope you're ready for what's coming." Kira met her gaze unflinchingly, the tension between them palpable. "I'm ready to lead this department with integrity and respect. I hope you'll be on board with that." Sarah's eyes narrowed further as she responded, "Integrity and respect, huh? We'll see how long that lasts." Undeterred, Kira's response was firm and confident. "I'll prove it to you. Just watch." With that, Kira turned and stepped into her office, her heart filled with a mixture of determination and anticipation. The room was a blank canvas, ready to be transformed under her leadership. As Kira Johnson settled into her role as chief of police, the precinct seemed to hum with a new energy, signaling the beginning of a significant shift. Officers paused mid-conversation, their eyes darting towards her, some filled with curiosity, others with skepticism. Kira took a deep breath and walked past the familiar desks, now imbued with an unfamiliar authority. She approached her office, where the door was slightly ajar, revealing her new title emblazoned on a polished nameplate, Chief Kira Johnson. Inside, she found Sarah Mitchell seated, her expression one of disbelief. Sarah's sharp blue eyes widened as she took in the sight of Kira, dressed in her crisp uniform and exuding a confidence that had been absent during their last encounter. The reality of the situation settled in this was no longer a routine interaction, but a new chapter where Kira held the reins, ready to lead and redefine the department's future. "So, you're the new chief," Sarah remarked, her voice dripping with feigned astonishment. "I had no idea they were promoting someone with such a history of traffic violations." Kira felt a rush of indignation, but she controlled her emotions with a practiced grace. "Yes, that's correct. I'm looking forward to working together to enhance our department." Sarah's tone was laced with sarcasm as she replied, "Oh, the community will surely benefit from that. Let's hope you don't decide to pull anyone over while you're at it." Kira clenched her fists at her sides, battling the urge to respond with equal hostility. Instead, she maintained her composure and said, "My goal is to build respect and trust within our department, starting with our interactions. It may not be to your liking, but I am now your chief." The atmosphere crackled with tension, thick and oppressive, as if a storm was brewing on the horizon. Kira turned away from Sarah, determined not to let the contemptuous remarks undermine her resolve. She knew she had to assert her authority, not only for her own sake, but for everyone watching her. A short while later, Kira convened a department meeting. As she stood in front of the officers in the conference room, her voice remained steady, though her heart raced with anticipation. She could feel their gazes evaluative and probing, scrutinizing her, assessing her qualifications. Taking a deep breath, she began, "Thank you all for coming. I'm Chief Kira Johnson, and I'm eager to work with each one of you. My vision is to cultivate a department that embodies the core values of our community: trust, respect, and collaboration." She scanned the room, noting a blend of reactions. Some faces were warm and supportive, while others, including Sarah's, were marked by clear disapproval. Undeterred, Kira pressed on, her voice resolute. "We must enforce the law, but we also owe it to our community to serve them with integrity. I am keen to hear your perspectives, concerns, and suggestions. Building a successful team requires all of us to be engaged and invested." Sarah's skepticism cut through the room like a blade. "A team effort? What experience do you have leading a team? You were one of us just a day ago." Kiera met Sarah's challenge with unwavering resolve. "I may have been an officer, but I have been preparing for this role for years. I understand the obstacles we face and am ready to confront them with determination. Leadership is not merely about wielding authority, it's about guiding with integrity." A murmur of approval rippled through the room, and Kiera sensed a glimmer of optimism. Perhaps she could shift perceptions and make a meaningful impact. "To begin, I propose we implement regular community outreach events," she continued, her enthusiasm evident. "We need to strengthen the connection between the department and the residents we serve. This is crucial for rebuilding trust." If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Sarah's voice cut in sharply. "Outreach? Do you think that will solve our problems? What about addressing the real issues, crime and safety? We need to focus on that, not just put on a show for the community." Kiera's gaze hardened. "I believe we can address both aspects, Sarah. Community engagement is a fundamental part of effective policing. It's not just about enforcing laws, it's about genuinely understanding and connecting with the people we serve." The meeting continued with Kiera skillfully addressing each officer's concerns, her confidence growing as she adeptly managed the discussions. Despite Sarah's ongoing attempts to undermine her, Kiera felt a shift in the room. She was no longer a figure of past derision, she was the chief, and she was committed to proving her worth and making a positive difference. As the meeting concluded, Kiera Johnson walked back into her office with a renewed sense of purpose. She felt a deep-seated determination settle within her as she processed the day's events. She had confronted her past, wrestled with her fears, and stood her ground with unwavering resolve. The road ahead was bound to be fraught with challenges and obstacles, but she was prepared to forge a new path. This path would be one of transformation, insight, and ultimately redemption. Days turned into weeks, and the atmosphere in the precinct grew increasingly tense. Detective Sarah Mitchell, in particular, felt a gnawing sense of unease that seemed to follow her every step. Each time she walked past the chief's office, she couldn't shake the feeling of discomfort that crept into her gut. Kiera, once the object of Sarah's scorn and humiliation, had now become the embodiment of everything Sarah resented: young, ambitious, and commanding respect in a manner Sarah had never anticipated or wanted to see. In the precinct's break room, Sarah gathered a few of her colleagues, her voice low but laced with a sharp edge of disdain. "Did you see how she handled that case yesterday?" she muttered, stirring her coffee, as though the action could somehow disguise the bitterness in her tone. "It was a rookie mistake. She's clearly in over her head, and everyone can see it." "Come on, Sarah. Give her a fair chance," one of her partners replied, glancing around nervously to ensure that their conversation was not overheard. "She's been making positive strides in the community. People are starting to appreciate her efforts." Sarah's jaw clenched in frustration. Appreciate her? This isn't a popularity contest, it's a police department. If she can't manage a straightforward investigation, how can we trust her to lead us effectively? A murmur of agreement rippled through the group, though one officer, Ramirez, frowned and shook his head. "Look, Sarah, I understand you have your issues with her, but actively undermining her could harm the entire department. We need to support her, not sabotage her efforts." "Support her," Sarah retorted sharply, her voice rising with irritation. "By allowing her to make us look weak. I refuse to stand by while she jeopardizes everything we've worked so hard to build." Meanwhile, in the sanctuary of her office, Kiera was acutely aware of the whispers and sideways glances that seemed to follow her through the precinct. She could almost feel the weight of Sarah's disapproval casting a shadow over every decision she made. Yet she was determined not to let it undermine her resolve. Seeking solace and strategic guidance, she turned to her mentor, Captain Thompson, a seasoned officer with decades of experience and wisdom. "Captain, I'm encountering significant resistance from the team, especially from Detective Mitchell," Kiera admitted, her voice steady but tinged with concern. "It feels like she's actively trying to undermine every initiative I propose. I need your advice on how to navigate this situation." Captain Thompson leaned back in his chair, his face etched with a serious expression that commanded respect. He regarded Kiera with a look that combined both concern and confidence. "Sarah is undoubtedly a formidable opponent, but you mustn't let her undermine you. You've earned your position here through hard work and dedication. Remember, true leadership isn't about being liked by everyone. It's about commanding respect. Keep your focus on your vision and your goals. If you are unwavering in your belief in your programs, others will eventually come to see the value in them as well." Kiera listened intently, absorbing his words with a mix of apprehension and resolve. She understood that she needed to stand firm and not allow Sarah's provocations to derail her carefully laid plans. With a renewed sense of purpose, she began drafting a comprehensive proposal for a community outreach program designed to build trust and strengthen relationships between the police department and the neighborhoods they served. Her vision was ambitious workshops, open forums, and community events aimed at bridging the divide between law enforcement and the residents. When Kiera finally presented her detailed plan to the department, the reaction was a blend of skepticism and cautious optimism. She stood resolutely before her colleagues, her posture conveying both determination and openness. "I understand that change can be challenging and may be met with resistance. However, we must adapt our approach if we wish to foster genuine trust and cooperation with the community. This program is designed to help us engage more effectively with the people we serve. And I am confident that it will not only benefit the community but also strengthen our department from within." A few officers exchanged doubtful glances, their skepticism palpable, but Kiera remained steadfast. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she maintained a steady voice and a composed demeanor. "This initiative transcends mere policing. It's about forging meaningful relationships and demonstrating our commitment to the community. I want each of you to be actively involved in this process because your input is invaluable." As word of her initiative began to circulate beyond the precinct, the community's response was overwhelmingly positive. Flyers promoting the program appeared around town, and local leaders voiced their support with enthusiasm. Kiera felt a surge of pride and relief. Her efforts were starting to make a tangible impact. Despite Sarah's attempts to undermine her, the momentum was shifting, and Kiera could sense a change in the atmosphere. One afternoon, while Kiera was immersed in reviewing the outreach plans, she received an unexpected call from a prominent local community leader, M. Adams. "Kiera, I wanted to take a moment to thank you personally for reaching out to us. We are genuinely excited about your program and are eager to collaborate. The community has been waiting for a positive change, and your leadership could be just what we need." Kiera's face lit up with a grateful smile, the weight of her recent struggles seeming to lift just a little. "Thank you, Miss Adams. Your support means a great deal to me. Together, we can create something truly transformative." As she ended the call, Kiera happened to glance down the hallway and saw Sarah watching her from a distance. Sarah's expression was unreadable, and for a brief moment, their eyes met. Kiera felt a tumultuous mix of emotions: anger, pity, and a glimmer of hope that perhaps, despite their differences, there might be a way to work together for the greater good of the community. However, Sarah's next move remained unclear, and Kiera knew that the real struggle for respect and recognition was far from over. Fueled by determination, she braced herself for the challenges that lay ahead, ready to confront whatever came next with resilience and unwavering resolve. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. As the sun dipped gently below the horizon, its fading light cast a warm, golden hue over the community center where the annual public safety event was about to unfold. Backstage, Sarah Mitchell paced anxiously, her footsteps echoing in the quiet space. She could feel an uncomfortable knot of frustration tightening in her stomach with every passing second. Chief Kira Johnson, the figure at the center of this gathering, was making remarkable strides in the community, earning both respect and admiration from those around her. As Sarah's thoughts raced, she was consumed by a simmering frustration that drove her to devise a plan to undermine Kira's carefully cultivated authority during the event. She aimed to remind everyone of a side of Kira that they had chosen to overlook. "Hey Sarah, everything all right?" her partner, Detective Mark Harrison, asked as he approached her, his brow furrowed in concern. He stopped briefly, his eyes searching hers for a hint of what was troubling her. "Yeah, just running through the speech in my head," Sarah replied, trying to muster a reassuring smile. However, her eyes, shadowed by a lingering unease, betrayed her true feelings. "You know how these events are, it's crucial to keep the focus on safety and what we're here to achieve." Mark raised an eyebrow, his intuitive nature picking up on the underlying tension that Sarah was trying to mask. "Just remember, Sarah, this isn't about personal feelings. We need to support the chief, even if we don't always see things the same way." "Sure," Sarah said, her voice tinged with a trace of sarcasm. "Support the chief." "Understood." As the event began, the auditorium filled with an expectant crowd of community members, officers, and local leaders. Chief Kira Johnson ascended the stage, her commanding presence and confident demeanor captivating the audience. She began her address, her voice steady and clear, resonating with authority. "Thank you all for being here today. It's an honor to serve as your chief of police. Together we can build a safer community through trust, transparency, and mutual respect." The applause from the audience was enthusiastic, but Sarah felt her frustration reach a boiling point. The time had come for her to seize the moment. She had meticulously prepared a question designed to undermine Kira's credibility and shift the narrative in her favor. With a calculated breath, Sarah rose from her seat, her movements deliberate as she raised her hand, drawing the attention of the crowd. Chief Johnson, Sarah's voice cut through the air with sharp, deliberate clarity. "Considering your recent promotion and the handling of that traffic stop the other week, could you address concerns about your qualifications?" The question landed with a jolt, its accusatory tone causing a murmur to ripple through the audience. Kira paused, her expression momentarily betraying a flicker of surprise before settling into a mask of resolute composure. Sarah's question had been carefully crafted to cast Kira in a negative light, challenging her experience and suitability for the role. But Kira, drawing on her deep well of inner strength and professionalism, met Sarah's gaze with unwavering determination. "Thank you for your question," Detective Mitchell. Kira responded with a calm and composed demeanor. Her voice carried a reassuring steadiness that seemed to envelop the room. "We all make mistakes. What truly matters is how we respond to and learn from those mistakes." That traffic stop was not just a moment for me to reflect, but an opportunity for all of us in law enforcement to reassess and grow. We must foster a culture within our department that prioritizes continuous learning and accountability. The audience's response was immediate and supportive, with murmurs of agreement and nods of approval spreading through the crowd. The shift in the atmosphere was palpable, and Sarah felt a knot tighten in her chest. Her carefully crafted plan seemed to be unraveling in front of her eyes. "Does this mean you condone such behavior?" Sarah pressed. a hint of desperation edging her voice as she struggled to maintain her composure. "Not Kira," replied firmly, her voice unwavering and authoritative. "I firmly believe in holding individuals accountable for their actions. However, it is equally important to understand the context and circumstances surrounding those actions. We must strive to create a department that not only supports its officers, but also upholds the highest standards of conduct. This is how we build and maintain trust with the community we serve." As Kira spoke, a profound silence settled over the room. The audience was captivated by her words, hanging on every phrase. Sarah felt a flush of heat rise to her cheeks, the realization dawning on her that her tactics were backfiring. Kira was not merely defending her position, she was elevating the discourse, bringing a level of insight and integrity that Sarah had not anticipated. Following the speech, community members began to approach Kira, expressing their heartfelt support and appreciation. "Thank you, Chief," one woman said, her eyes glowing with admiration. "We truly believe in your vision for our department." Sarah stood off to the side, watching as the crowd gathered around Kira, feeling a deep sense of isolation. Her attempt to undermine Kira had not only failed, but had seemingly bolstered Kira's position and credibility. "Sarah, are you okay?" Mark's voice cut through her thoughts, his concern evident in his tone. "I'm fine," Sarah snapped, though the quiver in her voice betrayed her distress. She was beginning to confront an uncomfortable truth: her actions were not only divisive, but also influenced by her own biases and insecurities. As the event came to a close, Sarah stepped outside for a breath of fresh air, her mind racing. The weight of her shortcomings pressed heavily on her chest. Accustomed to being in control and assertive, she now felt disoriented and lost, caught in a predicament of her own making. Kira had not only deflected her attack, but had emerged from the situation stronger, embodying the very principles of transparency and integrity that Sarah had long dismissed. Standing alone beneath the flickering streetlights, Sarah Mitchell felt the weight of the night settles heavily on her shoulders. The dim light cast long shadows, and her thoughts churned with the intensity of a storm. She found herself grappling with a profound realization: it was time to confront her own biases and insecurities and reevaluate the path she had been walking. The gravity of her underestimation of Kira hit her with an intensity she hadn't anticipated. The evening had unfolded into a pivotal moment that could redefine not only her relationship with Kira, but also her perceptions of leadership and respect. As the sun sank below the horizon, painting the precinct with a warm, golden glow, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Inside the break room, Sarah paced back and forth, her frustration evident in every stride. Her brows were furrowed, and her voice carried a sharp edge as she spoke with barely concealed disdain. Unbeknownst to her, her words were being recorded by a young rookie officer named Tom, who stood nearby, his unease growing with each passing second. "That new Chief Kira thinks she can come in here and run things just because she got a shiny new badge. She's just another statistic, a token," Sarah sneered, her voice laced with contempt. Her words echoed harshly in the small space, each syllable dripping with derision. Tom shifted uncomfortably, the weight of Sarah's comments pressing heavily on him. His fingers trembled slightly as he fidgeted with his phone, the screen casting an unflattering light on his face, which was etched with disbelief and concern. Sarah, maybe you shouldn't say that out loud," he ventured, his voice quivering with anxiety. "Why not?" "It's the truth," Sarah retorted sharply, her tone rising in indignation. "She's not qualified, and everyone knows it. Just wait. She'll mess up, and then we'll see who the real leader is." Tom's initial hesitation gave way to a growing sense of alarm. The realization that Sarah's comments could have serious repercussions hit him like a freight train. With a deep breath, he quickly recorded the conversation, understanding that the department was already on edge following Kira's promotion. Little did Sarah know that her words would soon breach the precinct walls, spreading like wildfire across the internet and igniting widespread outrage. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 4 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. As the evening wore on, the department's phones buzzed incessantly with notifications. News outlets swiftly picked up the story, and social media erupted with a frenzy of hashtags demanding accountability and justice. Kira, sitting alone in her office, watched the unfolding chaos with a mixture of shock and determination. Her heart pounded as she read through the torrent of comments, many filled with anger and disbelief. This isn't just about me, she thought, her mind racing through the implications. This is about all of us. The realization that the incident had transcended her personal experience and tapped into broader issues of leadership and respect weighed heavily on her, setting the stage for a significant and challenging shift in her journey as chief. The following day, the precinct was abuzz with murmurs and sidelong glances. The atmosphere was thick with tension as the officers exchanged wary looks and whispered speculations. In response to the growing unease, Kira decided that decisive action was needed. She called for an emergency meeting, summoning officers from every division to gather in the precinct's main conference room. The room was charged with a palpable sense of apprehension as officers took their seats, the weight of recent events hanging heavily in the air. Standing at the front of the room, Kira projected a calm yet commanding presence. Her voice was steady and clear, cutting through the murmur of anxiety that filled the space. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her gaze sweeping over the assembled officers. "I know the past few days have been challenging and unsettling, and we must address what has transpired. We are facing a serious issue within our department, one that threatens both our credibility and our relationship with the community we serve." The officers shifted in their seats, some crossing their arms defensively in response to the gravity of her words. At the back of the room, Sarah sat with her face flushed, a mixture of anger and embarrassment evident in her expression. Kira continued, her tone unwavering but imbued with compassion. "Racism and bias have no place in our department. It is our responsibility to hold ourselves accountable not just to each other, but to the community that places its trust in us. I firmly believe in restorative practices. I believe we can learn from this situation and emerge stronger." A murmur of surprise rippled through the group. While Kira's approach had been anticipated by some, the sincerity and depth of her commitment resonated with many of her colleagues. She continued, "I want to establish a space where we can engage in open and honest dialogue. We need to share our experiences, listen to each other, and strive to understand different perspectives. This is not about seeking revenge or assigning blame. It's about fostering healing and growth." Sarah's heart pounded as she listened to Kira's words. The concepts of healing and understanding felt both foreign and challenging, forcing her to confront her own biases and preconceptions. The bravado she had relied on seemed to crumble under the weight of Kira's call for reflection and change. As the meeting progressed, Kira skillfully facilitated discussions, encouraging officers to express their thoughts and feelings. After a tense moment, Sarah finally spoke up, her voice trembling with vulnerability. "Kira, I didn't mean it the way it came out," she admitted. "I was frustrated and overwhelmed. It's been difficult for me to come to terms with everything." Kira met Sarah's gaze with a softened expression, her demeanor reflecting understanding rather than judgment. "I appreciate your honesty, Sarah. Change is never easy, and it's natural to feel frustrated. But we mustn't let our frustrations cloud our ability to grow and improve. We have a choice: we can either choose to support and uplift each other or allow our biases to drive us apart." As the meeting drew to a close, Kira felt a sense of accomplishment. She had addressed a difficult situation with grace and integrity, setting the stage for meaningful change within the department. For Sarah, The meeting had been a moment of profound introspection and confrontation with the consequences of her actions. While the formal investigation into Sarah's comments would continue, a more significant transformation had already begun within the precinct to shift toward a more open, accountable, and empathetic approach to policing. In the weeks that followed the incident, Sarah Mitchell found herself grappling with the consequences of her actions. The disciplinary measures she faced served as a stark reminder of the crucial importance of maintaining professionalism and respect within the workplace. Her words, once spoken in frustration, now echoed back at her with the weight of accountability. The department, under Kiera's leadership, embarked on a transformative journey. A series of workshops on bias and diversity were introduced, reflecting Kiera's commitment to fostering a united and accountable force. These sessions were designed not just as a response to the controversy, but as a proactive step towards building a more inclusive and understanding environment. Through these workshops, officers began to confront their own biases and learn about the importance of diversity and empathy in their roles. As the city awakened to a new day, Kiera stood on the steps of the precinct, her gaze fixed on the horizon. The morning sun bathed the city in a warm, golden light, symbolizing the dawn of a new chapter. With a deep breath, she embraced the renewed sense of purpose that had emerged from the challenging period. The road ahead was undeniably fraught with difficulties, but Kiera was resolute. She understood that true leadership required not only facing the toughest battles with unwavering integrity, but also guiding others toward a future where understanding and mutual respect were the cornerstones of progress. Kiera's resolve was steadfast. She was determined to lead with empathy and a clear vision, knowing that her efforts would help shape a better, more inclusive environment for all within the department. The path forward would demand resilience and dedication, but Kiera was prepared to meet the challenge head-on, committed to making meaningful changes and inspiring a culture of respect and accountability. As we wrap up today's video, let's take a moment to reflect on the key takeaways from our discussion. We've explored the complex dynamics between law enforcement, leadership, and personal growth through Kiera Johnson's journey from a challenging traffic stop to becoming chief of police, and Sarah Mitchell's struggle to reconcile with this new reality. What have you learned from Kiera's determination to rise above adversity and Sarah's resistance to change? How can you apply these lessons to your own life or career? Please share one thing you've learned and how you plan to bring it into practice in your life by leaving a comment below. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you won't miss any future content. And if you haven't already, hit that bell icon to stay updated with our latest videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.